Hey cryptos, been a while from myself, Crypto Sniper. It's dull times, so we do dull things and we focus on other markets. But the crypto realm has been slowly setting up for a nice little sell-off. You can see the realm, you can see the overall structure on the daily time frame that's set up, that made our target. So this is all just churn period. You get rallies, all the bulls get super excited. There was a grind line in there. We said bear or square, you're going to break the grind line. It's in our premium area where we were discussing this at length on both Ethereum and on BTC as to how we could see it playing out and slowly rolling into eventually a head and shoulders on Ethereum. In fact, I'll get into Ethereum later. So that was the BTC. It's the God market. It's the big one. And you've got to be aware of where it's at so that you know. So we're just looking at this little bit here. So let's zoom it in because we know all this history now. And we'll take it into the bigger time frames, or the smaller time frames, let me rather say, get it down to 2 hourly, and you can see how that was going. Now a lot of folk got all excited, you know, a little compression squeeze there, etc., and the key thing is avoid being sucked into bullish tendencies in bear and square periods. In other words, you keep your trading simple. In other words, you have a bias to one direction guided by the larger time frame, and then you are either square or trading in that direction. So that means you're continually looking for levels to short from. We have further downside targets on the Bitcoin and crypto market as a whole, which I may or may not get into at a later video call. So this is just a progress decay period of rallies. It's going to suck all the wannabes that want to be back into the believing market and that it's all over. Unfortunately, bears die with a whimper. They don't die with a sudden reversion to extreme bull. They keep going, they keep bearing, and people will be saying, wow, but we've lost. Bitcoin's lost 85%, essentially if you're at 4K, which we were under, to a 20K high, you've lost, right the way down 80%. And so you're talking about something that's lost more than 80. Can it lose more? I'm afraid it can, and we'll be wrong at the end, at the bend. That's fine. We keep trading continuation. We had a key target here, and so we were expecting rallying, if you remember the bigger time frame that I just had you on. And we had our little wind-ups that gave us further periods of potential success, and then boom, here we go. So that grind line ended up being broken. Grind, a little touch, and then a reversion off, and then a spill. And that's your God market, and that sees them all go weak. Our preference during that period was the Ethereum option. So Ethereum, again, the key levels that you've got to pick out real early. You can see the resistance round number there, the resistance round number there, and then trimming, sitting on this like a ledge. In fact, grabs Studio Pen and goes into draw mode. You could probably see what we call a complex head and shoulders. You'll learn all about that in a greater detail if you choose to invest in your learning. But that's your head, and then that's your final shoulder. So you actually had a slight complexity to your left shoulder, and you also did on your head. But long and short of it is that was a left shoulder, that was a right shoulder, and that was the head. And what do you get? Nice key floor. Look how low vol it goes. Nice tight squeeze there. You could have also seen that as a squeeze point, and then you spill. And now you're starting to make marginally lower lows and getting bigger rallies. So it'll base out a little bit, maybe have even a spike up rally as it often does. So this is spike, sideways and dump type markets. This was illustrating the increasing volatility as it was going up. So that we call a Hunt's trumpet. You can see it getting really wide, and then it had its tightening there that gave you the justification for a zoom to there after a little dip out the hole at the bottom, and then sideways and then up. So that's kind of what we've got. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We're warning that you wanted to be short Ethereum and choosing your points. The 160 price point was a very good point where you continued to get resistance. So if you looked at the 160, let's grab the pen again. I think it is, where she go, 151. I've got these things in the clear, you're in the way, close, you're in the way. That's the 160 there, boom. And you could see you continually were getting nipped there. So if I go back into our draw, I can draw it here. You were continually getting nipped across the tops there. And that was a nice area to be filled for shorts, and we discussed this in our premium area as well. So that then gave a good little move, and head and shoulders target was made quite comfortably. You would have that as your distance there, projected down there. You got a little pennant that said further continuation possible, but that's probably a good place to get out. I was out there and I enjoyed that trade. So that was the relative weakness of Ethereum to Bitcoin, and the expectation that Bitcoin was going to break a grind and that this fractal would disappoint. In fact, it looked very promising at first and then it just wilted. So this is the spike and wilt market at the moment for the longs, and there's going to be a lot of people shaking around and getting hurt, and this was it on a smaller time frame. And this, by the way, is not particularly strong at all. In fact, I wouldn't like to say which way it's going to go there. I think it needs a little bit of a rally in truth at some point, but that price behavior is not impressive. There was the pennant again. You've got that low there, and often in these events it's stopped almost exactly there. Some people will be going double bottom, you know, and I would warn against being too confident about that, because double bottoms in these kind of markets where there is a revisit to a level where there's a predominant bear doesn't mean you're going to get the hoped for reversal. So there was that low there, and some people will think double bottom. You could end up with a bear flag here and another leg down. You could get some form of a rally and maybe a rising wedge, and then you could fall down as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Nasty volume in that as well, to bear in mind. That negates a lot of the very positive volume on the big spikes. That, as I've already said, was volatiling out, and then you fell out of it and you went into a new trumpet that was flattening. So you had a lot of expanding volatility, which always means you're going to get some bearishness. So what happens? You broke out of that trumpet there, and down you go. New structure for downside, down you go. So that was it before you eventually found some support on that grind line there, and there, and that was it. So we did warn of that on Twitter before the events. Most of it's being done in our premium, but I did give a small sneak preview over there. ETH against BTC and Ethereum generally in the feed, and that's how it played out later, but the real detail was in our premium area. So watch out for that. Let's just also take a run past the Ethereum BTC chart, because sometimes some of you may not be so bearish crypto and you want to just, I'll trade one versus the other. Again, Ethereum, so what did you get, and why we were more rising wedge with a break to the upside, and that can happen. So it's not, direction is not assured, context matters in crypto, and in all trading markets for that matter. Then you've got the steep ascending move here, where there's a lot of aggressive buying coming along the bottom. What that means is they pre-exhaust themselves, pop out the top, but then there's not so much lift anymore left in there. They're holding the grind, and then the first spill happens there. You get your flagging, down. If you've drawn your key level of significance where you've had your repeated resistance that you overcome, it becomes temporary support. What do? A little bit of a rally. That was a great rally to sell. Look at that low vol before you spill. Rising wedge, another push down, marginally lower lows. So this will get some support, I suppose, at some point. But it's not a resumption necessarily to bull markets for Ethereum against BTC either. And the alts underperforming BTC is generally, not exclusively, but generally bearish. And BTC looking like it's really battling to get away from its lows. This were the lows way down here. If we take it back up the time frames, I think that was the all-time low since the collapse. The great collapse of 2018, which was also a defining moment when most people were bullish on that 6,200, 6,800 area, and that unfortunately didn't work out to the bull side. So this is in context of the bigger time frame, taking you back up. Maybe it would have been easier just to go to the bigger time frame one that's already there. Is not very, very convincing. That is not very convincing as a rally, in terms of this. And we in fact have very big targets to the downside, and that keeps us bare and square, and reasons for that. Anyway, yeah, that's your update on Ethereum and Bitcoin, your primary coins, I suppose. And yeah, hope that's useful to you. Watch out, stay tuned. If you like the way we analyze markets, feel free to get in touch. We've got a webinar this 18th, evening of the 18th, and there'll be an offer there for you if you want to become a member of our premium community, where we look at both cryptos, traditional markets, FX generally. It's quite useful to be able to see where money and liquidity is flowing out of other markets. Yes, crypto is its own market, but at the same time, when the world contracts, sometimes your crypto market will contract too. And that is the situation, unfortunately. When humans need to reach for the cash, that's what they'll do. And that can even mean selling their cryptos. So having a 360-degree perspective across all asset classes and a method and approach is very powerful. Anyway, with that, love you and leave you. Bias, bear or square is the theme for us. Rallies to be sold. Longs are not of great interest to me. We will eventually, of course, and we're regularly inaccurate, so this is not trading advice. This is just us talking about how we frame and how we look at the market. Okay, till then, speak to you all soon. Webinar on the 18th. Go to themarketsniper.com to reg. Click and reg, get started, and then we'll see you then. If it suits you. Trading is not for everyone. Crypto is a highly volatile instrument, and 5% will end up being crybabies and being hurt by the process, very definitely. And so bear it in mind. It is testing. It's emotionally testing, and you need to stand to on the method, and you have to have good money management to survive in this game. Okay, speak to you all later. Thank you for watching and sharing. Appreciate you. Bye for now.